Prepare to get gas because it's time for the 100th episode of The Week in Gear. We made it. 100 episodes of me enabling your gear acquisition syndrome and you enabling mine in the comments section. Now, before we get into this week's gear list, I just genuinely want to say thank you for all the times you've tuned in and left comments and stuff like that. I love making this show, and I am so happy that it entertains and informs a bunch of you, and I really look forward to reading your comments every week. I held it together. All right, good. Happy 100th TWIG. Now, back to business. The guitar world is, of course, gearing up for NAMM 2026, but we have some pre-NAMM releases in this episode that are particularly exciting. This week, Electro-Harmonix shrinks an entire orchestra into a teeny tiny box. Ibanez release a guitar that makes it very hard for me to contain myself. And Cort builds a guitar that literally never stops making noise. Not literally, not even figuratively. We'll get to it. This milestone episode is sponsored by One Audio and their Studio Max 1 headphones. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let's kick off this week's most exciting guitar gear releases with the company that seems determined to make the smallest pedals on earth. Just when you thought your pedalboard couldn't get any more crowded, EHX is back with another entry in their Pico series, and I love the Pico series. This is the Pico Intelligent Harmony Machine, and it sounds like this. Intelligent is the key word here, because this isn't just some dumb pitch shifter that does whatever it feels like and makes you sound like a chipmunk with a ukulele. You tell it what key you're playing in, and it generates harmonies that should actually fit the song. You get a knob to select your interval, everything from a simple third or a fifth or up and down to full octaves up and down, and even multi-voice combinations. There is a switch to select the natural key or the sharp key, plus you can even have dual mode, which synthesizes two different intervals simultaneously. You've also got a blend knob to mix your dry signal back in, you've got mono out, 9-volt power supply in, and Bob's your mother's brother. Now, the only thing I'm not really a fan of is the 12-string mode. I think it sounds synthetic on its own. It could work in a band mix. I've never heard some sort of pitch shift thing that does 12-string very well, but it could also be that I'm not really a fan of 12 strings. This Pico prize is landing at around 149 notes, and for that price, I think it's a brilliant way to fake being in Thin Lizzy without actually leaving your bedroom. The gasometer hits, add to cart. It's tiny, it's clever, and it fits in the little Altoids tin space on your pedal board. Now, from something tiny and digital to something a bit more massive, hand-built, and unashamedly hi-fi. This is the Cillia Special 25, a boutique amp built by a Frenchman in Austria. And what a special amp this is. If you chase the legendary Dumble Overdrive Special tone, you're usually looking at a 100-watt head, and you require a stadium to open it up, and you probably then need to live out in the open near the stadium because you need to sell your house to pay for the amp if you can find one. Well, my friend, Arnaud de Cillia has taken that philosophy and reinterpreted it through a pure Class A architecture. Mwah! You might have seen my review of the Single 25 recently, which is the amp that I bought from de Cillia because it was simply unlike any other amp that exists. Well, it seems that statement might not be true anymore because this is the Special 25 and it's in the same vein as the Single 25, but with that Dumble flavour. Oh, hang on, like that, isn't it? Instead of a bank of power tubes, this thing runs on a single KT150 tube, which means it's all Class A, all the way, and instead of having an attenuator that cuts power tubes out of the mix and does stuff like that, the Overdrive Special can run at 4, 10, or 25 watts just by rebiasing that one tube. which is very clever. It's also proprietary technology. You might not be familiar with the KT150 tube. It is a massive tube, usually found in high-end audio equipment, and it gives you, well, it gives me exceptional bandwidth and immediacy. The single 25, my single 25, which is right over there, it can both tickle your ears and punch you in the face at the same time, and I hope that this Special 25 does the same. On this beauty, you get 2 channels, a high headroom clean that stays fast and articulate, and a drive channel inspired by the D-style sound, but with that Class A harmonic density. The feature list is also pretty stacked. You get a mid-switch to toggle frequencies between 500 Hz and 2 kHz. You've got a foot-switchable 7 decibel boost, a high-definition buffered effects loop with adjustable send levels, and it's pumping all of that through a Fein F70 speaker housed in an acoustically treated solid pine cabinet that's made in Germany. It's a lot of stuff, isn't it? Now, one of my favorite things on the single 25 is simply turning the knobs. It's so high quality and so expensive feeling that it is a whole experience in itself, and is the second most fun I've ever had playing with a knob. That was some low-hanging fruit. You're some low-hanging fruit. The price of premium engineering in Austria, well, it's landing at just over 3,500 notes. Whew! This is a serious investment, but it promises to cover everything from blues to shoegaze, which I'd like to try. I certainly got fuzz heaven out of the single 25. And it does this apparently with absolute precision, and who am I to argue? I can tell you from owning the single 25 that it is worth every single penny. One little caveat I do have to mention is that I'm not really a fan of companies bringing out Dumble-style products, because not enough people in the world, including me, have ever heard a real Dumble to know if this is anything like it. But I did speak to Monsieur de Cillia about this, and I'm prepared to trust him on this, and this Special 25 being his nod in the direction of the Dumble sound. Plus, he used a lot of engineering speak that I didn't understand, so I found myself just nodding and agreeing. For the first time ever, we're going to have not 1, but 2 gasometers. This gasometer is a hard borrow it, and this applies to most people. If you ever get the chance to play through this amp or the single 25, do it, and make sure you twiddle the knobs. This gasometer is a very enthusiastic wallet on fire. Boom. The single 25 won Amp of the Year in 2025 on my channel, and I hope I get to play this Dumble style Guitar Summit or somehow. I mean, he's in Austria, we could just go for another coffee and a croissant. Anyway, I hope I get to play the amps. I was thinking about food then. Anyway, I hope I get to play the amp soon, and I'll report back. But thankfully, the waiting list for these amps is quite long, which means that my wallet is safe for a while, so it can stop hiding under the sofa in terror. You'll be all right down there. Before we move on to the next piece of gear, a massive thank you to One Audio for sponsoring the 100th episode. Let's talk about them. Yes, this is the One Audio Studio Max 1 wireless DJ headphones. And because they're DJ headphones, I wondered if you could use them to make your guitar wireless. Turns out you can. In the box, you get the headphones plus this wireless transmitter that you can plug into anywhere with a 3.5mm jack or the included adapter or with USB. So let's put them on and see if I can make my rig wireless, albeit with a cable in the guitar. So let's plug the guitar into the Valatone GP5. I've got that running into my Zoom recorder so you can hear this. And then I'm going to plug the transmitter into the headphone out of the Zoom, like so. I don't know why, but I was a little surprised that it actually works. There is a small amount of latency, but for practicing purposes, if you want to turn your existing rig into a wireless headphone practice rig and then maybe even combine it with a wireless guitar unit, yeah, get rid of your cables. And the thing about these is they are quite affordable considering what they are. Battery life is 120 hours. You can also use a cable directly in. They're comfortable, they're not too heavy, and they enable you to play guitar without worrying about another cable. I'm actually a little surprised. Wow, all right. If you want more information on how to make your guitar rig a little bit more wireless, check out the link to One Audio in the video description. And I'm gonna go back to playing some riffs. Before we go back to the gear, I just emailed One Audio to say how impressed I was, and they said, well, give your viewers a 20% discount code. So if you use this discount code at the link in the video description, you'll get 20% off. And yes, the old studio still exists. Now, back to the gear. Cort has just dropped a guitar that proves you don't need a custom shop badge to get boutique specs, and you don't need tons of controls to get a good sound. This is the Cort KX600 Infinite. And the Infinite, in the name, doesn't refer to a battery-powered sustainer or the amount of time you'll need to spend saving for it. It refers to this massive natural sustain you get from its construction. Ooh. This is a neck-through design featuring a 5-piece roasted maple and walnut S-shaped neck running all the way through the basswood or basswood body. Basswood, I think we decided on. Cort say that this construction with the neck through gives you incredible stability and access to the upper frets that feels seamless. Of course, it's a Strat-style guitar. That should be the case, but it's even more access. I do absolutely love how they've joined the paint of this body with the wood finish of the neck. This is a design choice that I dig on any guitar that has this. I just think it looks so sleek. The fretboard is also roasted maple with a pretty flat 15 3/4 inch radius and 24 stainless steel jumbo frets. For electronics, they've kept it pro and aggressive. You get a set of Fishman Fluence modern humbuckers in both the bridge and the neck. These are multi-voice pickups, so you can switch between active high-gain aggression and passive style clarity, I think. Don't quote me on that. But you use the push-pull volume pots and you get different sounds from Fishman pickups. That's what I do now. There is a slightly ugly but almost unavoidable battery compartment door on the rear of the guitar that I do wish had been integrated a little smoother, but if you're on stage and you need to access this quickly, then this is a solid choice from Cort, and you can't knock it from practicality terms. Hardware-wise, they've skipped the finicky trems and gone for rock-solid stability with a Cort hardtail bridge with string-through body routing and locking tuners. The icing on the 100th episode birthday cake for me is the spoke wheel truss rod adjuster right at the end of the neck. And look how close that humbucker is to the end of the neck. It is like, it's almost one. It's really close. But the spoke wheel again, this is the only place that a truss rod should be adjusted, and in the only way it should be adjusted. I will not budge on that. This KX600 Infinite was designed with input from technical wizard Neil Zaza. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, because I honestly hadn't heard of him before this, and I did a bit of a rabbit hole deep dive on him, and I didn't have to go very far before I found this photo. And as a promo photo for the guitar, this means that anyone who has this sort of attitude towards guitar is almost certainly someone I could be friends with. Now that is a guy who is winning at life. In fact, we should at least have a look at him doing his thing with the Cort right now. The Cort KX600 Infinite comes in two finishes, as you've probably seen on the screen. Black satin and a very striking orange crush satin, which is my favorite and reminds me how much I love orange guitars. Whew. Both models are landing at around 1,000 notes, which as it's built by Cort, means that it's a little cheaper, or quite a lot cheaper than it would be if it had a different name on the headstock, but was still built by Cort, because they're the people who know what they're doing and they build guitars for lots of other brands. Google it, you will not be disappointed. If you want a shred machine that prioritizes resonance and wood over gadgets, this is a serious contender. The Gasometer is a buy it now. Next through construction at this price, pretty hard to beat. I hope I get to play one at NAMM. Time for some British engineering, stiff upper lip optional. Victory Amps has just dropped their new flagship Lunchbox head, and it's a big one. Well, actually, it's a small one. Well, it's smaller than the one it's based on. This is the Victory MKX. Alternatively, this is the Victory MK10. Could be both. I'm going to go with MKX. Now, to understand what this is all about, you have to go back to last year when Victory released the MK Overdrive, which is a hand-wired, cost-no-object amplifier that was basically chief designer Martin Kidd's ultimate amp. It seemed incredible, but it also cost about 5,000 notes. Money being no object. Now, the MKX is the exact same concept, or the heart and soul of that costly amp, crammed into Victory's standard Lunchbox chassis, and for a fraction of the price. The MKX is a 50-watt EL34 powered beast with 3 distinct voices. Number 1 is clean, which is supposed to be a high headroom chiming clean with its own dedicated EQ, very important. OD1 is that famous British crunchy sound that Victory is famous for, and OD2 should be a searing high-gain lead channel for modern heavy tones. And I love the way they've arranged those 3. I love the arrangement of the panel. I think it's great. And I don't know why I love it so much. Right, this is where the feature list gets really clever. You get 2 foot-switchable master volumes. I'll say that again. You get 2 foot-switchable master volumes. So you can set a rhythm level and a solo boost without needing an extra boost pedal. You also get 2 different reverb types built in. Reverb 1 is a classic spring style, and Reverb 2 is a modern shimmering plate sound which is borrowed from their Deputy amp. Round on the back, you've got the presence and resonance controls to tailor that low-end thump, plus a low power mode that drops this down from 50 watts to a more bedroom-friendly 9 watts. There's also an effects loop, multiple speaker resistance outputs, and it all fits in an included padded bag. How cute. The MKX is landing at around 1,500 notes, which, yes, is premium for a Lunchbox head, but considering that it's giving you the architecture of the 5,000 notes flagship in a gig bag friendly size, it's actually a bit of a bargain. Boy, does this thing give me gas. The Gasometer is an undisputable, solid buy it now, if you want one amp that should do absolutely everything for most players.
Andy's Pick of the Week!
Yes, my Pick of the Week. For the 100th episode Pick of the Week, it had to be something special. It had to be iconic. It had to be quintessential. It had to be a shape that screams, I am a rock star, and I do not care about ergonomics. I need to rock, and I must be seen doing it. It is, of course, the Ibanez Iceman IC420MFM CML. Ibanez have just dropped their lineup for this first part of 2026, and oh boy, there is a lot to digest. But for me, I'm only going to talk about the one that matters to me most. The beautiful, the doubly quintessential Iceman with a maple fretboard. And I have one here. Here it is. Let's just unwrap it and I will show you it in all its beauty. Look at that absolute gorge monster. It feels even better than it looks. Look, feel, smell. Oh. The IC420MFM something something CML, there we go, it is the Iceman silhouette done right. It features an Akume body with a stunning flamed maple top, which is finished in this absolutely gorgeous caramel burst low gloss that feels like a well-worn violin or possibly cello. Cello! I don't actually know how Ibanez have done this, but the finish is so thin and the grain is not filled, so you can see the wood so clearly and you can feel it. And that's so important to me as a player. It's like a tactile experience as well as a guitar, which is kind of the opposite of the other Iceman models that I've played, which I adore. And I don't think an Iceman exists that I don't love. I need to think on that. This model feels like nitro, and therefore it feels much more expensive than it is. The neck is a set neck. It's Akume as well. It's topped with a bound maple fretboard and those massive acrylic and abalone looking, style block inlays. It pushes all my buttons and it looks premium. Under the hood, or rather under the strings, it is loaded with a pair of Ibanez's legendary Super 80 humbuckers. If you know, you know. These are the ones with the flying finger engraving on the covers. They're ceramic, they're passive, and they are bright, giving you that tight, articulate 70s rock feel and bite without the mud that you get from cheaper pickups, which we probably associate with ceramic pickups. This ain't those. Hardware-wise, you get the rock-solid Gibraltar Performer bridge for sustain, and then you get the Quick Change 3 tailpiece, which is not only very cool looking, but makes restringing significantly less annoying. But the best part is the price. You get all this history, the flamed maple, the tactile finish, the gold hardware, and the flying finger pickups for around 750 notes. Although it's a bit more expensive in the US, I noted. It's lightweight as well. It is not the behemoth you think it might be. No, I wouldn't call that lightweight. I would call it surprisingly light considering how it looks. Also, Iceman guitars are not as impractical as they look, and it actually makes a pretty great couch guitar. See, it doesn't fall down. If you're looking for something that is similar to a Les Paul, but not a Les Paul, and you want to stand out, it is Iceman all the way, baby. It's like I'm holding a violin that just happens to be better because it's a guitar. My review of this comes out in a few days, unless of course you're watching this in the future, which means it's already out. Regardless, subscribe to the channel and you'll find out at some point. I love the Iceman, and I think Ibanez have taken this to the next level with this model. It's beautiful. It's kind of pointy and weird. It might be polarizing, but people that don't like it are wrong. It is absolutely the coolest thing released this week. And that is why, for episode 100, the gasometer is firmly at an atomic wallet on fire. And that is it for episode 100. I genuinely can't believe we made it this far. Every episode of TWIG is a heck of a lot of work. It's not just sitting down on a sofa talking about stuff. It's had its ups and downs. More ups than downs. Some more downs than ups. I'm just trying to think of a down. I can't. I'm having a great time holding an Iceman. Anyway, thank you to every single one of you who watches and everyone who comments and supports the channel in whatever way you do. This show wouldn't exist without you. But a massive, mahoosive thank you to the Patreon members who help keep the lights on. Your names are scrolling over my face right now, and you're all legends. And an equally huge thank you to the people who support this show right here on YouTube. Check out those names over my blurry face. Aren't they beautiful? And a special shout out to the top tier members. Antonio Cruz Barreto, Buddha Blue, Boom Shakalaka, Buzzle, Dirk, Doug Paget, Jindrik Strelka, Johnny McBadminton, Kultur Matt, Mike Lute, Andrew Morgan, Darius Lives, Gary O'Neill, holy moly, that's 8675309, Josh Tamberg, Mandud Bro, PQ Deads, Robin Kelly, Sarang Narayan, and Southern Panda 33. Here's the question for the comments section this week. If you could only keep one piece of gear you bought because of this show, what would it be? Here's to the next 100 episodes of terrible financial advice and beautiful guitar stuff. See you next week. Bye-bye!